Life is a team sport. As kids, we look forward to finally moving out of our parents' homes. We dream of that day when we finally graduated from college, have our first high-paying job, and can finally be independent. In fact, we pride ourselves on having been accomplished, or we consider ourselves to be an accomplished individual because we no longer need to rely on other people. But are we ever truly independent? Let's engage in a brief mindfulness exercise taught to me by my brother Keith, using the example of brushing our teeth. Most of us consider brushing our teeth to be a solitary action. But what about the scientist who developed that toothpaste and the formula that protects our teeth? How about the 530 university employees who created a team to help provide that educational experience for that scientist? What about the 100+ factory workers who produce the product at an affordable price so we can purchase it? How about the shipping company and all the people that went into designing, building, loading, unloading, driving, dispatching that vehicle? How about the CVS Staff team? What about your car and all the individuals who came together to build that you drive to and from the store? And don't forget the utilities: sink, water, pipes, electricity, the mirror, and all of the individuals who maintain those items to help you. A conservative estimate suggests about 5,833 people helped you brush your teeth today. And what's the point of this? Well, the idea is to appreciate relationships, and not just the relationships that we're aware of, but the relationships that we're unaware of. When we're driving to work and we're behind someone who's going a little too slow, we get frustrated because we don't value that person because we don't know them, but they play some role in helping us in some way. And thinking about relationships in a way like this is step one. It helps us understand the difference between reality and our mindset. In reality, we think that we need other people, but our mindset is very different. The key here is to understand and appreciate relationships. But that's only the first step. The second step to embracing the notion that life is a team sport and working together as a team to be successful is to build team culture. And some of the answers come from a book called Tribal Leadership. Tribal leadership is based on 10 years worth of research and 24,000 individuals. All of these people were followed and studied to observe the culture that exists within organizations. Now, culture cannot be always quantified easily. We don't know how people think, but we do know the words that individuals use and the relationships that they form. So tribal leadership focuses on what relationships form and what language do we use to build our culture within our organizations. They talk about natural groups that form. It is a basic human function. All individuals at all levels in all organizations naturally form groups. So the key is, how can we leverage these naturally formed groups to create thriving organizations? A tribe is defined as between 20 to 100 people. And the idea here is that after 100 individuals, it's very difficult to maintain a close personal relationship with that many people. So small companies, by definition, small organizations are a tribe. Larger ones break off and form smaller groups within that entity. Tribal leadership talks about culture, and by observing all of these organizations for a long period of time, they've categorized the different stages of culture that exist within the organizations. And we're going to spend most of our time on the higher ones, and there are 5, but a brief overview of the earlier stages. At stage 1, individuals believe that life is hard in general. And when you believe that life is hard in general, it's a very difficult mindset to break out of, because you believe that your situation is hard and others' situations are also hard. Many gangs operate at stage 1, and the gang values loyalty, which is even more difficult to break out of. The key to helping someone and the leverage position to help them leave stage 1 is just reminding them that there's a choice. Reminding them that there's a choice, not being judgmental, and forming a positive relationship with that person. At stage 2, we see individuals use the mantra that my life is hard. And it's a slight difference, but it makes a massive impact, because if you believe that your life is hard, it implies that other people are doing okay and things can get better. The leverage point for stage 2 is to give someone who believes that their life is hard, who lacks that confidence, a series of small tasks that can be accomplished in a short period of time with minimal help and minimal supervision. This incremental success technique allows them to graduate to stage 3, which is I am great. Stage 3 individuals and organizations that make up predominantly stage 3 people are great. They are successful, they're high achieving, but the problem is that they don't trust other people to do the job as well as they can. As a result of that, they take on far too much, they micromanage, and they limit their success. So it's not that stage 3 individuals or organizations aren't successful, it's that their success is limited. We see this a lot in education, as students fluctuate back and forth from stage 2 to stage 3. When we first enter kindergarten, there was a lot of challenging tasks that were required to learn. So we believe that our life is hard. As we learn these tasks and we learn the alphabet and we can read and write, we start to believe that, hey, I'm great. Until the next challenging thing that we have to learn when we flip back into my life is hard. So individuals and organizations can teeter in and out of the various stages. At stage 3, we see a tremendous amount of business books. Self-help manuals are all designed for stage 3 individuals. If you believe that you are great and everybody else is your supporting cast and you take on too much, you are limited by a finite amount of time. The solution, according to many of these manuals, is to optimize your processes and be more efficient. Although it's great to optimize processes and be more efficient, this is only a band-aid. This is only the beginning to truly achieving success. We need to embrace the notion that life is a team sport. And to leverage somebody out of stage 3, we need to give them, whether it be the organization or the individual, a task that they cannot possibly accomplish on their own. When you do that, it forces them to embrace the mantra of stage 4, which is, we are great. Now, stage 4 organizations are extremely interesting and unique. When you belong to a stage 4 organization that has culture at this level, you don't feel like you are part of the organization, you believe the organization is part of you. And we see this when individuals are separated from the organization, inevitably at some point, be it that they found a better opportunity or they retire, they feel like a piece of them is missing. In addition, they use the word we more than the word I, and that is what tribal leadership quantified as they observed these organizations. An example of a stage 4 organization is the New York Yankees. They have had a history of success. Individuals take pay cuts to be part of their organization. They dress differently, they look differently, and players identify as being a Yankee, not just a baseball player. Another key component of stage 4 is these organizations typically have a rival, and the Yankees have the Boston Red Sox. Other examples of stage 4 would be Amazon, who rivals with Walmart, and Google, who rivals with Apple. My example of stage 4 culture is during my experience in the Marine Corps. I enlisted in 2003 and then served in Iraq in 2005. And in the Marine Corps, individuals don't believe that they're great and they made the Marine Corps great. Instead, they believe that they are great because they are part of the Marine Corps culture. The Marine Corps takes on a task that is too big for one person. One individual cannot be effective accomplishing the goals that the Marine Corps embarks on. And the Marine Corps has a saying, Every Marine is a rifleman. This implies that no matter what your job training was, no matter what your MOS or your specialty is, no matter how you've been trained, if you need to be a rifleman, you will be a rifleman. They shy away from specialization, which we as humans love to embrace. We are all specialists in something, but in the Marine Corps, you are a specialist in success. We learned this firsthand when we were deployed to Iraq, initially operating as an amphibious assault vehicle platoon, which is what we spent 2 years training how to do. However, this vehicle is very dangerous and made out of aluminum, since it's amphibious and floats, and as a result is a huge target for the insurgency. Therefore, the battalion we were attached to decided to live by the Marine Corps motto and make us riflemen. So for the majority of our time in Iraq, we patrolled as regular infantry foot soldiers, doing a job that we had far less experience and expertise in. However, we believed in our ability to be successful as an organization and as a team. Another amazing characteristic about the Marine Corps is that we technically view things that are a challenge or a struggle as a positive. And one example from our deployment is when we received our Humvee vehicles, there was a series of problems. I vividly remember the gunner in the turret in our vehicle had to manually rotate the turret with his body and a crank, when other units had fully equipped, highly functional electronic turret systems. I vividly remember taking a cargo strap and strapping the door closed on my Humvee to protect our team because the door wouldn't latch shut. Such a simple thing that so many other units had. But again, in the Marine Corps, the idea is, despite challenging circumstances and limited resources, we are still going to succeed, and we are not a specialist. You also see when individuals leave the Marine Corps, years after they are separated, they still feel an identity or an association with that organization, which is an example of stage 4 culture. Now at stage 5, we see all the same examples or all the same characteristics as stage 4, with the exception of the rival. The rival at stage 5 is replaced with a noble cause. And a great example of this is Nelson Mandela and his pursuit to defeat apartheid. Mandela was taking on a task that he could not accomplish alone. Defeating apartheid is impossible to do by yourself. He needed a team, but he was not driven to beat the enemy or to outperform the competitor. He was driven by the noble cause. Steve Jobs once said, "It doesn't make sense to hire a bunch of smart people and then tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do." And this is at the heart of tribal leadership. So what can we do starting tomorrow to help build stage 4 and 5 culture in all of the tribes that we belong to? The first thing, we can focus on language and be aware of how often we're referring to I and our accomplishments as opposed to we and the team's accomplishments. We can focus on relationships because relationships are the key to success. We can take our goals and we can times them by 10, as Grant Cardone says in his popular book. When you magnify your goal by 10, you cannot accomplish it alone, and it forces you to bring on a team to be successful. And finally, as organizations, we can think about our rival, and we all have one, whether it's a person or another organization or another team, and think about how we can replace that rival with a noble cause. If we truly want to maximize our success, we need to embrace the notion that life is a team sport. Thank you, and good night.